The John Sterling Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I was a little boy, about 7, and I discovered sports, and it's been a lifelong love affair. I'm very lucky to have it. That's one of my companions, along with music, that I carry with me. On July 4th, a few days from now, I'm going to be 87. So that tells you how long I have loved sports. When I grew up, there were 6 newspapers in New York. Boy, do I wish that would happen again. One of the remaining newspapers has a fabulous sports section. That's the Post. And here is one of my favorite writers, columnists in the Post, and our first guest today, Mike Vaccaro. Vac, how you doing?
John, I'm doing terrific. How are you doing, my friend?
Well, good. You know, it's I couldn't have it easier. I spend an hour each week talking sports with all my friends. It's wonderful. And I think one day a week is that's about what I can do. So, Vac is a great basketball fan. Like me, he played basketball when he was a kid, and I guess into his 20s and 30s. Now, I played till I was in my mid-30s, and I tore up my knee in a charity game at Fordham, and I had to go to tennis and swimming. So, Vac, how long has it been since you've been playing basketball?
Yeah, it's been a while, John, and I miss it. I miss it every day. I dream about playing basketball probably twice a week.
You know, go ahead.
And then I wake up. No, I was going to say, and then I wake up, and it's like, you know what? It's probably best that I just reserve it to hitting golf balls instead.
Well, there's no question about it. People don't realize who haven't played basketball what kind of shape you have to be in to go up and down that court. So I'm glad I began this way with you. So tell me, what did you think of Indiana and Oklahoma City and the finals they put on?
I thought it was a terrific finals. I really do. I wish, unfortunately, those of us who love sports, there's nothing better than a Game 7. And there's really nothing better than a Game 7 of the Ultimate Series, right? The World Series, the NHL Finals, the NBA Finals. And we get it so infrequently. I was so looking forward to it. And then, Tyrese Halliburton goes down about 5 minutes into the game. And it's just a buzzkill. And, much to Indiana's credit, they were still leading at the half. But, you just had that feeling once Halliburton went down, it was going to be a real tall order for them to be able to stay in the game. But look, I mean, Indiana gave that series a run. I don't think anybody thought that series was going to go more than 5 games. And, they won Game 1 right away, the same way they won so many games in the postseason, kind of miraculously in the fourth quarter. Knicks fans know all about that. And they stayed in the series for the entirety of it. And it was fun. I mean, like I said, you start to appreciate that you don't really get to see Game 7 all that often. And you really don't get to see it in the ultimate game of the season that often. And when it happens, you appreciate it.
Well, I agree with you. I was bothered at the beginning. There are 2 very small cities, Indianapolis and Oklahoma City. And so the ratings figured to be down. But they weren't down for me. I thought the games were great. I love to watch Shea play. He does everything so easily. And as far as Indiana, they play team basketball, and they put a lot of guys on the floor, and they attack you and play as tough as they can. So I really loved Indiana and Oklahoma City, and I have to admit this. I love the Knicks and what they did, and like everyone else, I am head over heels in love with Jalen Brunson. I cannot believe how great he is and how clutch he is. Now, it's one thing, Mike, as you know, to be able to dribble like that, fake and dribble, and he has the ball all the time. He must be so strong. And but the thing he does when he does all of his fakes and moves and gets the shot off, he does one other thing. You know what it is? He hits the shot. So
yeah, he sure does.
He really is a fabulous player.
Yeah, he really is. And look, the Knicks really wanted him. They targeted him. They hired his father as a coach before they actually signed him as a player. So you know how much they wanted him here. I'm not sure that even Leon Rose knew, or even Tom Thibodeau, knew what kind of player they were getting. They knew they were getting a very good player, I think if you told him that he was going to be a regular on the All-NBA team within a couple of years, that might have surprised them.
Well, I agree with you.
But you know what? If you've seen his career at all, John, you know he's always been that way. He's been a guy who's kind of thrived on proving people wrong. I mean, he proved people wrong at Villanova, and was a great player at Villanova, championship player at Villanova. And look, his arrival really signaled a different level with the Knicks. When Thibodeau and Rose took over, I think there was an idea that the circus had left town. But once Jalen arrived, it was obvious that this guy had real aspirations and was willing to do what was necessary to get there. And look, it's been a fun tour already with them. You know, they've won 4 playoff series under him, under Jalen as a player, and he's been instrumental in all of them.
Well, no one likes him more than I do. I am just blown away, and I do agree with you. I don't think Rose knew. I don't think Thibodeau knew. I don't know if Bronson. I'll tell you this: Dallas didn't know either because they never would have traded him. Yeah. He is great. Which leads me to a question that's never been answered. As you know, the Knicks do not talk to the public, which I think is some nerve when you draw $18,000 a game, paying those phenomenal prices. They deserve to know. So let me ask you, why was Thibodeau fired?
Yeah, you know what? I think the best way to describe it is that, look, I mean, he was there 5 years, and I get it. You know, there's a shelf life for all managers and coaches, or most, I should say. And Thibodeau is the kind of guy, look, he's not easy to play for. He's not easy to work with, I'm sure. I mean, I know. And so I think maybe they thought that it was time for a fresh voice. And it's not unprecedented. You know, I think, you know, a guy who's getting a lot of bouquets these playoffs, John, is Rick Carlisle at Indiana. And, he's got one title and he almost came close to a second. But before that, you know, he was on the doorstep of a championship team with the Pistons in 2003, got him to the conference finals and got fired. And then they brought in Larry Brown, and, you know, Larry Brown won the championship his first year in Detroit. And so there is precedent for it. Now, the difference is there's no Larry Brown out there right now, as far as I can see, who would be a significant step, forward. Maybe you can find lateral choices. You know, maybe you could, convince me that Jason Kidd is a lateral choice. I'm not sure that that's even feasible, that he could be pried away from Dallas. But I'm not sure what else you got. And look, I've kind of tried to hold the torch in my garage until I see who they hire. You know, because I think it's only fair. Who knows who they hire? Who knows what they have in their bag of tricks? But it really had better be a significant, like I said, if not an upgrade, at least a lateral move to a equally adequate coach, because the Knicks have a very brief and very exciting window right now. I mean, next year the East is a mess. We saw Halliburton go down. We've seen Tatum go down. We've seen Dame Lillard go down. It was already wide open, and the Knicks were already good enough, as we saw, to be one of the 2 finalists in the East this year. It only goes to reason they should be right in the conversation next year. And you really can't afford to hire a coach, I don't think, who's going to be learning on the job for the first 40 games of the season. Now, I mean, I could be proven wrong. I'm willing to be proven wrong. I hope that I am wrong for the sake of Knicks fans who were long-suffering, as just about anybody else in this town. But it puzzled me when it happened, and it still puzzles me now, John.
Oh, I think it's very puzzling. And we did see other top-flight coaches get fired. Obviously, Detroit, Memphis, teams that were winning and had really good records. They had chances to win 50 games. Well, winning 50 in the NBA is pretty good. That was always a mark that people wanted to get to. And
yep.
I'm not quite sure. And about Thibodeau, Mike, you probably can answer this better. See, I think he has within him this unbelievable desire to win. Now, every coach wants to win every game. But with Thibodeau, I think it's stronger. And he could see that his second team wasn't nearly as good as his first team, and that's why he played his first team a lot of minutes.
Yeah, you know what, John? It's become almost a cliche. You know, the coach who sleeps in his office and is so single-minded and, is buried in game film. But honestly, that's what Tom Thibodeau was, and that's what Tom Thibodeau is. Look, if he wanted to, he could collect his next 3-year salary, a pretty nice wage, and just do it all from the beach. I guarantee you, he's already looking at like game film of the finals because that's what he does. Basketball is what he does. It's who he is. I'm not sure he's ever going to be a head coach again. I mean, I hope he gets another opportunity because he's that good, and any struggling team would do well to have him kind of add his signature to their product. But that's who he is. I mean, and you're right. All he cares about was winning. I know that people got on him because of his rotation and because of all the minutes and how much he cared about winning games in the regular season next year. But you know what? Good luck to the next guy next year if, in the middle of February he goes on a 4-game losing streak and 3 of those games are winnable and they didn't win them because they didn't play the starters enough, People are going to remember that too. You really can't win in the business anyway, John. You've been around long enough to know that. But I think it's hilarious at a time when one of the greatest scourges in all of basketball is load management and guys taking nights off and guys getting half days off. You don't get that when you play for Thibodeau, and generally speaking, he assembles players who don't want that anyway. So, and that's what he had with the Knicks, and so it's going to be interesting to see what the next guy does when he comes in, because it sure sounds like that's part of one of the things the Knicks want to find in a new coach is a guy who's going to expand the rotation, be more collaborative, and when you start hearing all the things the Knicks want in a new coach, it's clear they weren't going to get that in the old coach, and not to Thibodeau's fault because it's been a very winning a successful formula for him. But that's probably gives you the real answer why they're looking for a new guy in charge now.
Yes, but I think they owe it to their public, and I'm no goody two shoes person, but I think they owe it to their public to say why did they fire this man who took him to the Eastern Finals? They hadn't been to the Eastern Finals in 25 years.
Sure.
And nothing is forthcoming from them.
No, and look, and somebody obviously who makes his living, partly on being able to get the comments of people and the understanding of what a guy. Look, here's the thing. When you're in like my role as a columnist, or John, or your role as a radio commentator, you don't want to just fire from the hip, right? You want to have a little understanding of what's going on. And look, those we all have people we talk to and so forth, but it wouldn't be a terrible thing once in a while for the Knicks to be able to give you an idea of what they're really thinking, in an official capacity. And look, I've been a big supporter of Leon since he got here. He's about as much of a reason for why they are where they are as anybody. He's made some really smart choices in building his roster. But, yeah, I do wish he would talk more. But, look, I also happen to know who he works for, and that probably explains why he hasn't talked at all.
Oh, you're very right. I always feel, Mike, I wonder if you feel the same thing. I don't know anything, which is normal for me. Thibodeau never knocked a player. Never. Now you could say Boone. Yeah, you could say Booney and Mendy. They never knock a player either. But I think with the Knicks, it began with Larry Brown, and they were going to hold up his money. And I wouldn't be surprised if Dolan has a clause in the contract that you're not allowed to knock the organization, and you can't knock a player. Is that possible?
Oh, I think it's 100% possible. I think it's actually the way it is, John. And look, it's funny. I know that you talk to the same kind of fans that I talk to all the time. And you spoke about Boone, right? And whenever the Yankees go on a 5-game losing streak, all fans want is a guy who's going to kick dirt on the umpires and topple the buffet table and start to scream that one's a born liar and the other's convicted. And guess what? Those are great times and those are great stories. That's never going to happen again because there's never going to be an organization that's going to allow a manager to behave that way, and nor should they. Look, it's a different time, and it probably wasn't even right then. It's funny in retrospect, and the stories are amusing in retrospect. But I guarantee you that when Reggie Jackson found himself on the back page of the tabloids every day, that wasn't a good time for him. And I don't think it was a good time for George in those days either. Actually, it probably was. He probably enjoyed it. But you're not going to get another George Steinbrenner again either, in the same way you're not going to get another manager or coach like Billy Martin.
No, I think you'd agree with this. It's kind of sad for us in the media, but they really pushing the media away. That's all sports. Dan Shaughnessy wrote a book about the his time with the Celtics in the 80s.
Oh, yep.
Oh, what a great book. And I lived it. I was broadcasting for the Hawks, never missed a game throughout the 80s. And Shaughnessy asked someone in Boston, now Larry Bird sold the building out, and they continue to sell the building out. It's all Larry Bird. And Shaughnessy asked something of a PR guy, and he said, we don't need you anymore.
Yep. And it's true, and it's sad. Look, here's the thing, too, John. Look, I don't go back so far that I was part of those great, Bronx Zoo back page wars of the 70s and early 80s. But you know what? I do go back far enough back to where, and I've always said this, and I've told him this, and, it's true. I mean, most of the baseball that I know, probably, 75% of it came from about 30 sessions early in my career when I was able to sit in the office of Buck Showalter.
Oh, right.
During his last years with the Yankees. And, it wasn't just the great answers. It was good questions by smart baseball writers, and you learn just to keep your mouth shut and listen and understand, why things are the way they are. And, even that part of it is different, because all pre-games are basically TV programs, and I get it. You got to pay the bills and so forth. I'm not a Pollyanna, but I'll tell you what, I feel bad for baseball writers on the way up who aren't able to learn to the knee of somebody like Buck Showalter. Or Bobby Valentine was the same way in his office, and whatever baseball I didn't learn from Buck, I probably learned from Bobby V. I mean, it's just not there anymore, and I think the coverage suffers naturally because you just don't develop the kind of relationships with the managers that you do when they realize that they can, trust you with acting good, smart questions.
Yeah, I was very lucky that Joe Torre trusted me, which he tells me all the time. It's too bad. It really is that because the media is there only to supply the fans with their knowledge, the knowledge they pick up. And I've heard a lot of baseball guys say this. It's not the same. They can't go to the office and sit there and talk to him and such. Mike, you've been a marvelous guest. I can't wait to have you on again. Do a quick thing on the Yankees and Mets. Any idea how they'll wind up?
Well, you know what, John? I listened to a wise man for many years on my radio who would tell me all the time that baseball is a very long season. And I think both the Mets and the Yankees are reminding us that this is a long season. And look, I mean, the Mets have been, 4 or 5 games up in first place on 2 different occasions. They've been back and forth in second place a couple of times on a number of cases, and you're not even the 4th of July yet. And, same thing with the Yankees. Look, they had a nice little start to the season. They've struggled the last couple of weeks, but I don't think that's going to be permanent, and that's part of it. For one thing, we don't know what the team's going to look like in, after August 1st.
Right.
But it's that's part of it. That's what it is. And so I think this year was a really great timestamp on what that kind of what it is. That's what a baseball season is. It's a long season, and we're reminded that every year.
Yeah, be something if they're both hanging around first place. It could be a great August and September here in New York. They're looking for that. Well, we all are looking for that, obviously.
That's always the best summer, John, when both teams are in the mix.
Absolute. Mike, thank you very much. You're great. I can't wait to read you tomorrow in the Post. And we have to do this again, okay?
That sounds good. And tell my guy Clapper she said hello.
Okay. Thank you. That was Mike Vaccaro of the Post. And the Yankees got shut out 7-0. And it's raining in Pittsburgh. They're putting the tarp on the field where the Mets have a 1-0 lead, but it's really early. And you want me to read this again or do it later? Yeah? Okay. I'll read it, and then we'll go to the break, okay? I'd like you to come root for the New York Police Department and the New York Fire Department. They're going to play a softball game on Sunday, July 20th, and net proceeds will benefit Shriners Children's. If you're over 18, hit it out of the park and win $1,000 in the Home Run Derby and the Fastest Pitch Contest. Doors open at 9:30 a.m. I will call the game. Special guests include Dwight Gooden, Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, and many more. So to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. And we will get back with my next guest. You're going to love him. And we'll do all that when we pay some bills here on 77 WABC.
The John Sterling Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.